So hey guys, I have Dua here today. She is a colleague and a fellow dietitian who reached out after my anti-diet video that I published a couple of weeks ago, and she had a really thoughtful comment and a couple of thoughts that I thought would be interesting for you guys and would bring about like a different perspective from another dietitian. So Dua, go ahead and introduce yourself to us and just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Dua Aldasuki. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, a certified health coach, and the founder of Dua the Dietitian, where when it comes to your health, one size does not fit all. I counsel individuals in Champaign, Illinois, where I live right now, and also in throughout the U.S. via online video conferencing through Dua the Dietitian. I am also currently a seminary student, so I'm studying part-time online with Qalam Institute, which is a seminary school in Dallas, a Muslim seminary school. So I'm doing it part-time online, and I think that's kind of where our conversation came together when I was kind of talking about that video.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'll pull it up real quick. So I'll let you, I guess, unpack that, maybe some of your thoughts a little bit more, but I just thought it was like super interesting, especially because in my video, I took a little bit of the stance of like the extreme maybe could cause people to flip-flop back and forth, kind of like we've seen people do with fad diets in the past. And then I thought it was really interesting that you're like, no, this is really necessary to kind of breed this like middle ground that'll emerge, which is like another way to look at it.
So in my seminary school, which, we're studying like Islamic sciences and history of kind of Islamic movements and stuff like that. And my teacher, like, half the questions we asked, his answer is always like, one extreme will breed another. And it just really makes a lot of sense when you think of the spectrum that people move from, especially when it comes to religious preferences or things that are strong, have a strong moral place. So things that we feel very strong about from a principle, morality, spirituality perspective, people hold on to it with a lot of force. And I feel like I don't see this too much outside of the Muslim community, probably because I'm not involved with the other faith communities. But I really felt like this anti-diet movement was something where you could see these two extremes. So you have, the history of decades upon decades of diets. And now you have, over the past few years, I think it's only been a few years of like strong anti-diet movements. And you're right, some of the language is very strong. It's very harsh. It's nothing that I would feel comfortable using, like you mentioned in your video. But I think it really, really provides another perspective, which is necessary. And the reason that I say this is because dietitians have always been the middle ground. Yes, maybe we helped people a little bit more with weight loss in the past. Maybe we kind of could promote some of these diets in the past, and now we feel a little bit stronger against them. But we've still always been the middle ground. That being said, though, the majority of the public didn't know about this middle ground. So even though we've always been in this middle ground, the majority of the public was unaware of this middle ground. It was the diet, or that's it. Like you're either on one of these diets or you've let yourself go and there's no place for you in this health spectrum. So I guess the reason that I really value what the strong anti-diet movement is bringing is it's bringing awareness to this in a way that we as the middle ground could not do. It's, these are the loud voices, and I really appreciate it because it was my introduction to intuitive eating in HAES. Like, if it wasn't for all of these loud movements, as you probably know, as dietitians, we don't really study, intuitive eating unless, now programs are changing. But I graduated in 2009 from my undergrad, and then I did my internship. And, I had an introduction to HAES actually because I took one class that was optional class. It was a summer seminar class that was held by a eating disorder dietitian, like a dietitian that specialized in eating disorder. And I can't remember the name of the man that worked with her, but he was basically the HAES proponent, but he sounded so out of this world. I was like, he's so biased. There's no grounds for this. Like, it's way too crazy. And so I disregarded it at that point. But as you kind of hear it come up again and again and again, you're like, wait, I want to actually look at this. And now you have the research to back it up, and you have all of these voices. And so I think, like you said, the strong anti-diet movement is going to die down. It's not really sustainable. And I don't think the goal is for it to be sustainable long term. If we were on the middle ground, you wouldn't need the anti-diet movement to be so strong. So that's kind of where my perspective comes from, where yes, it's strong. Yes, it's harsh. will people flop between the two? I don't really see that happening, because I feel like once people embrace the anti-diet movement and the concept of it, they recognize the benefits that also come with it. It's not meant to be something that you do and quit. And at least from my experience, like with my own clients, I've never had somebody learn about intuitive eating or learn about mindful eating and be like, nah, I don't like this anymore. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where my perspective came in from.
Okay, yeah. I think that's all really interesting, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation and we're gonna share it too, because I don't want to get super stuck, or my audience to get super stuck on just one perspective, because I'm just one voice for sure. But you said a couple of things that I thought were really interesting, and that just had me thinking. So yeah, like you said, the dietitians kind of have been historically this middle ground, and I think maybe this is almost even coming about because we haven't really done like a super good job as a profession of like marketing ourselves, or like putting ourselves like in that forefront as the nutrition experts, because it's just so much more easy to be flashy and to sell something that's like quick and not the middle ground. So maybe this is even like combating some of that. So I graduated in 2015, so just a little bit later, and I did learn about intuitive eating just a little bit. Definitely, maybe not so much under those terms, but like talking about like hunger and fullness cues, and like how you lose that after, you're a child, once we get on these regulated meal times and things like that. But Haze, I don't think we ever talked about in undergrad, and I wonder if other nutrition students are getting that now.
There's a podcast that I listened to, that I was listening to, Intuitive Eating. I think it's by Real Talk RD. Oh, I'm really blanking out right now.
No, you're good. We'll figure it out, and we'll like link it down below and everything.
We interviewed a director. I think she was a director in a dietetics program, or she had interns. She was a director of like interns, and she was just saying like one of her interns introduced her, or one of her students, I really don't remember what it is right now, introduced her to intuitive eating. And after she was introduced to intuitive eating, now she's incorporating it into her curriculum. So I think or maybe there were a few that got exposure to intuitive eating, to Haze in their undergrad programs. I think now into the next few years, we're going to see a lot more of it, because in this podcast she mentioned, she's like, there's only 4 or 5 programs US wide that you get exposure to these things and experience in them. So it's definitely a growing field. And I think going back to what you had mentioned about how like dietitians didn't really market what they were saying before, I think that's really true. And I think even now we're still a little bit hesitant, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because we are health professionals at the end of the day, right? We're not salespeople, we're not marketers, but at the same time, there needs to be that balance, which we're still trying to figure out. I mean, I haven't figured out mine yet, but I'm trying to learn about it. But yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard when you're not marketing the next best diet, or what your marketing is going to take a year to achieve instead of a month or something like that. So that makes sense, that's probably a component as well. Like a lot of times when I talk to people, I think dietitians are probably the most prominent health professional on social media, which is really cool to see, which also makes sense because a lot of what we share is very applicable to most of the population, as opposed to like a physician that specializes, or even a physician that is a health, that is family medicine. They're still not going to be as applicable to everybody as like food, right? So I really value the amount of dietitians that are present in social media. And I think the fact that they're present along with the anti-diet movement is very powerful. It's really, really a powerful thing, because you have the one side extreme, the other side extreme, and then you have the middle voice, so people can kind of hopefully find it, which I'm finding, in my experience, people are finding it. I'm present on my website, which is www.duaردn.com, which is DUARDN.com. You can also find me on Instagram, which is my most frequently used social media outlet, and that's at DUARDN. On Facebook, you can find my page, Dua the Dietitian, or www.facebook.com/DuaRDN. I'm also on Tumblr, but I'm finding Tumblr very difficult to infiltrate and be a part of. So I'm there. If you say hi, I will respond, but I'm not as active. And then I am on Twitter at Dua the Dietitian, because somebody took DUARDN, unfortunately. And it's a suspended account that has been suspended for over a year. And I keep on Twitter to let me have it, but they haven't responded yet. Hopefully one day they will.
Yeah, hopefully, for sure. That's frustrating. Cool. Well, we will, or I'll link everything down below. But thank you so much, Dua, for talking about this today. And I'm like so excited to share your perspective and open up the conversation a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Like, it's really cool to be featured.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, we'll see you guys in another video.